Exactly. How are you this morning, Roberto? We are so happy to have you with us this morning. Roberto Cipriani, welcome to our live. Welcome
Thank
to
you
our
very
live.
much. Thank you for having me. For me,
You
it's a
are
pleasure.
welcome.
Very happy to
Yeah,
be.
I'm in New Hampton, Iowa. Where are you this morning?
I'm in Thousand Oaks, California.
That sounds warm and breezy.
Yeah, it's very warm.
You get the Santa Ana winds. I think I hear you talk about them on occasion.
That's right.
Yes.
But not this time. I mean, today it's just calm. So it's
calm, and you'll be seeing 90 or 100 degrees.
Right. 80, 90 probably today.
So we are so excited to welcome Roberto to our Honk Live this morning. He holds a special place in all of our hearts because he is our, and I'm not even going to give away his title. I'm going to let him do that. But let's start. Yeah, that's a great part to start with. Roberto, tell us, what exactly do you do for Honk?
I'm the principal data scientist for Honk.
Okay.
So I like to explain that as I'm the person who, one of the people at Honk that makes numbers speak to us and try to understand what's happening around us when we are delivering products or when we're trying to understand the situation of our providers and how we can help them to do their jobs.
That's fantastic. And I also, you've mentioned several times you're a curious person. I'm curious as well. Where are you from originally? Roberto Cipriani. So where are you from originally?
Yeah, well, my last name is Italian. It's a very old Italian last name. It's probably dating from the time of the Romans.
Okay.
And was referred to as people that coming from Cyprus, Cyprianus. So there are many origins in this. You go to Italy, many regions have Ciprianis nowadays.
Sure.
I was born in Venezuela. My parents are immigrants there. My father from Italy, my mother from Spain, even though she was born in France during the Civil War, the Spanish Civil War.
Wow.
Yeah. And now I live in the United States.
The United States. How many different countries have you lived in?
Countries. 2, 3. At least 3 countries, yeah.
And you speak how many languages fluently?
I speak fluently 3.5. I speak also Catalan. That's a language on the northeast of Spain, the region around Barcelona, because my mother is from that region. So I was spoken Catalan since I was a kid from, my great-grandparents and my parents and my grandparents, and my mother was speaking to me in Catalan. So when I was growing up, so I can understand it perfectly and I can read it and I can speak a little bit because I haven't spoken very often, right? But yes. And the others are Italian, Spanish, and English, of course.
It is. I want to say what's your first language, but I think that you grew up with all of it.
Yeah, I can say, the only thing I can say, my last language is English.
Okay.
It's the last thing I learned. That's
perfect. I'm fluent in 3 languages, English, of course, sign language, and then I also speak fluent toe man or toe person. So
yes, that's amazing.
Those are the language, and we've been on calls before. So those are the languages that I say that I speak fluently.
That's fantastic. My wife and I, we wanted to learn also sign language.
Oh, really?
Yes, we're very curious and we want to use it. Yeah, we've spoken several times to learn sign language, American sign language.
We're going to say, hey, Mike, welcome to Honk Live, Mike. If you have any questions, feel free. We've got some folks monitoring our live to answer the questions for you. Gosh, so many questions, Roberto, that I want to ask, and let me think of what is next. We talked about what you do for Honk. We talked about your background, where you're from, and let's one of the main things is, what do you want our guys and gals out there on the roadside every day to know about you and how your role impacts Honk? What are you doing for our towing partners that are out there? What do you want them to know about you? That's the question. What do you want them to know about you?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want them to know that I'm really, really thankful, and I'm really appreciative of all the work that they did during the pandemic and still are doing right now. They are people who have worked, have exposed themselves to trying to help others. Sure. Being out there when people have needed their help, and that we feel that, and I feel that, I see that, and I recognize their efforts and their work doing that, and I'm very thankful for that. So I want them to know that. And about the work that I do, it's very easy to forget when you are not in contact with people to see people as they're people like you or I, just working and doing their daily lives and and trying to do their best. And sometimes people forget because you're behind a computer and what you see are numbers. No, I try never to do that. I always remember that there's people behind those numbers, and there are people like us just working and doing their best every day. And I recognize that, and I try to keep that in my mind all the time.
We love that. It's the compassion. It's what I always have in my mind, and I challenge others to think about. It's the heat, the rain, snow. It's tire change on the freeway. It's being on a major interstate. It's having your life at risk every day to do these recoveries and tows and roadsides. And we are doing our best to promote the safety aspect of it. So that compassion that you have, Roberto, that's an answer that's really great. Thank you so much. You're welcome. How long have you been with HONK?
I've been 1 year and 8 months now.
Okay. Fantastic.
So I'm a baby honker.
I came 1 month before you. I think that's what happened.
You came just immediately after me. Yeah.
January of 2020 is when I came.
And I arrived in November 2019.
Perfect. Yeah. We are baby honkers. Is that what we're saying that now? We're saying baby honkers. I'm into it. I'll own it. Yeah. If you could learn to do anything, what would it be?
Well, let me tell you, I'm very curious,
yes.
Extremely curious, and I always want to learn about things. I keep reading journals and books and whatever. I just enjoy very much knowing the advancements of science. At the same time, the advancements in my career in what I do with data science or analytics and so forth and so on. I also like to do different things, and one of the things I always liked since I was a kid were airplanes. Even though I'm also have a degree in other area of science, but I love airplanes for some reason. My dad loved airplanes. I loved airplanes. My brother wanted to become a pilot, so everybody loved airplanes. So one thing that it's in my bucket list is just learning how to pilot a plane. And I've been on jobs that require me to fly with small planes between islands in the Caribbean. And that's very exciting. And that's one of the things. The other thing I like to do, it's cooking. I like to cook.
Really? I would like a seat at your table. So I'm just going to say Renee and I are going to come out there, and we would love a seat at your table.
Thank you. I can arrange that. That's no problem. I love to prepare food for friends and family.
Perfect. We've had a couple friends come on. Hello, Brian France. Thanks for joining us. And Angela Roper. Good morning. No one is hotter than Angela Roper is right now out in Phoenix, Arizona, where she is baking, no doubt. Down in California. Brian France is down in Florida, where he's got all the humidity and the heat, of course, but they've got the ocean. So thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. What would you say is one of your favorite things about working for HONK? Something that, like, an aha moment for you, something you've discovered or changed the way that you're thinking, maybe a paradigm shift, kind of along those lines. What do you really enjoy about all this?
Well, there are basically two things. One, people, of course, people are very, very nice and very collaborative. There's almost all the time this presence that we're working for HONK for trying to make things better for other people be better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super nice. This feeling of collaboration and camaraderie is very important for being able to perform your job well and feel good about what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But also, I also discovered that data matters. So every time I have to show something and I have to of course, it's my job, right? So I have to show data and demonstrate my points. I cannot just stand up there and say, hey, I think that this is happening. Like, sometimes people think that scientists or people working with data science just are people with not hair that's very well arranged and just a lab code, and then you start to say things and people believe you, and that's not the way. That's not what it is. No, actually, you have to demonstrate everything you say. You have to say, okay, if this is happening, this is the data that demonstrates this. And if this is other things happening, these are the numbers that show that this is happening. And you have to build your case like a detective with all these little blocks and try to convince people around you that this is the way, that's what's going on. And when I arrived at HONK, I realized that people were like that, or people were encouraged to be like that. And the arguments had to be built like that. It was actually it's the first place I come to work in which when I hear people saying, before I said it, like, oh, but what's your hypothesis? Which is, oh, I heard that. And I say, yes.
Yes, yes.
Hypothesis, let me explain a little bit what
I love the hypothesis. I speak fluent hypothesis. Sometimes I say it to Renee and he's what? I'm looking forward to this explanation.
Oh, no, I want to say, I'm going to give a cultural reference. Every time we see a movie here and there are two scientists discussing, like, for example, in some hero movies, like superhero movies or some scientist movies, they say, what's your theory, Mike? Or what's your theory, Lauren? And what people say, what's theory in movies actually are hypotheses. What that means is that it's something that you believe it is. You have certain evidence or assumptions that allow you to believe that this might be that what you're thinking, but actually hasn't been proven yet. And that's what a hypothesis is, right? So you have some assumptions or some data, and then you say, well, if this is this and this is that, then I would expect this to happen. That's an hypothesis.
Yes.
And I arrived to HONK, and that's where the first thing they told me, and I said, yes, this is the place where I want to work.
Yes.
And yeah, it was awesome. That's the other thing I like from HONK. Right?
Give us an example of a hypothesis in everyday life, like not work related. Maybe cooking a meal or cleaning the house or something. That's an example of hypothesis.
Of course. I'm preparing this steak. This steak has very little fat. And one of the tricks to give flavor to food, it's adding fat. And the reason is because substances that keep food dissolve in this fat, and therefore everything starts to taste the same and the flavors mix and so forth.
You're making us so hungry. I know Dennis is right now. I apologize. Go ahead.
So I'm sure. Steak, yes, I said steak, yes.
So then your hypothesis is?
And what you do is that, for example, filet mignon, right? You have a filet mignon. Filet mignons are dry per se, have very little fat. Yes. So you have to add this butter when you're cooking it in order to make it more juicy and more palatable and just more delicious, right? Well, one hypothesis can be, because I know that butter is fat and juicy and substances that give flavor dissolve on butter. If I add butter on the filet mignon when it's cooking, I expect this piece of meat to become more flavorful when it's eaten by the consumer, the person who's going to eat it, or when I'm going to eat it. That's an hypothesis. So I'm saying, I know something about fat. I know something about this steak. And I make a prediction. In this case, it's obvious because this is an example. And I say, you put this piece of meat and you add fat, it's going to be more tasty when it's going to be eaten, which is the prediction part of the hypothesis. That's an hypothesis, for example. That you can do also another one with salt, and so forth and so on, right? It's the same idea. If you add something more salt, it's become more salty, or people are going to feel that they need to drink water more afterwards or something like that. Very
true. We've had a couple people come on since you've been speaking. Hey, Samantha. If I didn't say hey, Samantha, Dennis is in the building also. Dennis is a fantastic cook as well. So I'm sure he's going to be talking with you later. And we've got, I predict, HONK says, all we all need is a side of mashed potatoes and eggs.
Yes, I saw that.
It's breakfast time in California for us. We're getting on to lunchtime. So who knows, I may make some steak and eggs for lunch today. That sounds really
awesome.
Really great.
I have recipes for Italian food, so.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions for Roberto, please put them in the comments here below. No, I love it. I can see your passion coming out, though. I mean, you're passionate about data. Data speaks. And I'll just share with you quickly that that's something I really had to be accustomed to, because, I would hear things out there, and the folks that I know out in the towing industry, they would tell me, not necessarily things that we need to work on at HONK, but, other entities that you guys and gals are working out with them and different ideas. And so we had to come together and build a case, build blocks to say, there are enough folks out there that are seeing this, that are having this problem, that it's a pain point for them. Can we please make the change? And I am, we've made some, I'm just going to say we've made some great changes just in the last 3 months. Some of you have noticed it. And so we hear you, we're making changes, and, feel free to ask away any kind of question you want to.
Yeah, Samantha has a question that's interesting and it's related to that.
Samantha, I'm curious, what tools you use to visualize your data. First of all, let me explain to you who Samantha Winters is. She works for a fantastic company in the towing industry called BA Products, based in Columbia, Maryland. They are the premier provider for rigging tools in the entire towing industry, and they've been around for a very, very long time. So she is the person that is the head of all data at BA Products. So this is more of like a retail outlet for products and tools that the tower will use in their day-to-day life. And so this is why my beautiful friend, I call her the data queen, is asking you this question, Roberto.
Okay. Thank you, Samantha, for your question. I think that's a very important question. Let me just do a very brief intro about visualization. I just want to say that one thing is to analyze data. So one thing is that you grab your spreadsheet, for example, or you get into Python and write code and make a computer to make calculations for you, or you create a model that's more complex and makes predictions for you, and so forth and so on. That's one part of when you work with data. The other one is when you try to show your points or you want to transmit those results to others. And the best way to do that is using a plot, or what we call in general a visualization, because it doesn't have to be a plot. And the concept of plotting has evolved so much now that you can mix real pictures with images and everything as to make the idea more clear and more transparent when you're communicating to it. And it's a very important point to know also that visualization is its own field. There are people who are specialized on making visualizations, because it's not trivial, and what has not always trivial, how to make a point clear with a visualization.
Can I pause you 1 second? Can I pause you 1 second?
Yes, of course.
From the simplistic mind that I have, I learned about box plots, and I want to give an example of box plots from the mind of Shelley Hawkins. So, for example, that would mean that you could say that on average, or the house is really messy. An average of 10 hours a day. On average, it's 10 hours a day. The house is really messy. But when we do a plot, we say it's really concentrated between 5 and 6.
Right.
Because that's when everyone is coming home, and that's when it's the most messy. So you can take data and you say, oh, here's the average. But when you narrow it down like that, you can really be able to start solving problems. And that is really what the data is about. So
right.
Keep going. Is that a good example from my...
It's perfect. What you refer to, what you said in our lingo, it would be something like, sometimes we only refer to parameters that describe certain aspects of the distribution of numbers. But after, when you talk about a box plot, you're talking about, let's explore the distribution of those numbers, where they get together and when they get, just more spread one from each other. And actually, box plots are a way to look at histograms or distribution of numbers from above.
Yes,
that's what they are. And they're fantastic tools of visualizing. So continuing with Samantha's question, I said we use several tools. We use the tendency now, because of what I was saying earlier, is that tools that allow you to do now analysis or processing data in some sort come already with certain packages and aids to make visualizations. They're not always perfect, but they just, if you are able to manage them, you would be capable of presenting visualizations that are pretty good. For example, we're using Looker in our company, and Looker comes now with a lot of new visualizations and methods to visualize data. I use R. R has a very strong, a very powerful, yet not easy to learn fast yet methods to plot, but just are super flexible, and you can do practically anything with R, which is a statistical package. We use also Python. Python comes with several libraries that allow you to do several kinds of plots as well, and presentations and visualizations. And sometimes what we do is just all classic, putting together a plot from one area, an image from another, and try to do our own assemblage of images as just to make sure that the information or the point that we want to make is clear enough. That's what we use. And there are other tools, right? So we use also, for example, Orange, which is a data mining. It's a data mining tool that allows you to also wonderful plots and just to discover structures and things inside the data. Yeah, that's what we use.
And to know what you know, Roberto, I would need another mind. So,
no.
And here's, I just so appreciate your natural abilities and your natural talent. And I love that you found what you're passionate about and you've made it intersect with your career. And that is an incredible thing to realize, to find your strength, make that intersect with your career, and you'll absolutely never work another day. So for sure.
I wish. No.
No, you love it though, Roberto, and all this. So
Thank you. You're very kind. You're too kind with me. I don't deserve your kindness.
what's what is one thing that we would be surprised to know about you? Like, okay, for real. I just said what's one thing. I feel like there's a lot of things, but what's one thing that we can talk about that we would be surprised about to know about you?
Well, one thing is I'm a biologist in training.
Are you really?
Yes, I'm a PhD in biology from the University of Chicago. I work in modeling and math applied to evolutionary problems.
Okay.
And also my first degree my major was in marine biology. So
Wow.
I work with evolutionary questions addressed to marine invertebrates. So, and I worked many years with that, and that's I taught too. For 20 years, I was working in academia. That's one thing that people sometimes they don't know.
You say 20 years in academia. What does that mean?
I work as professor in Venezuela for 20 years. I ended up being the dean of biological sciences before deciding that I had to retire earlier. So
yeah. And now it's all about the data.
Oh, that's a good question. I get that question many times, and it's when you talk about careers and you hear the name of the career, you immediately associate the name with people that you know, and usually are people from where you're living on and everything. And in the 1960s, there was a big split in biologists in the Americas, and there were three major areas of biology that were created and were decided in conventions, in international conventions. And the three areas were human biology, natural sciences biology, kind of biology, biochemistry at the time.
Okay.
So the United States, Canada, they went into the biochemistry area of it, the chemistry of biology. Many countries in Latin America went to follow natural sciences. And
I was going to say the natural sciences.
Right. For obvious reasons, Latin American countries had resources, so it was interesting, important to understand biodiversity. That led, the biochemistry area led afterwards to all these studies in genetics. And nowadays, if you are in the United States and say, I'm a biologist, people immediately think, oh, you are working with genes. That's what most people think. Or you're a virologist now because of the pandemics. Now people know about microbiology and virology because of the pandemics. But if you go to South America and you say, I'm a biologist, people immediately think that you're a natural scientist, meaning you have a hat, you are an Indiana Jones. And you go to trips in the middle of the Amazon forest, or you go to a local rainforest and you spend 3 days there and you put tracks to track animals and things of the sort, and like Smithsonian kind of thing. You follow animals and things of the sort. And when people ask me about this why mathematics, data, and biology, well, it turns out that working with natural resources, first I always liked, for some reason, I always liked numbers and coding too. It was one of the first things I did in college is to learn coding because I was curious to see how it was working. At the time, the computer at the university, you had to have the little cards, the punch cards.
Yes. What language did you code in to begin with?
Well, that's I think was either BASIC or Fortran. I don't remember. My first one with computers, like personal computers, was BASIC.
Yes,
definitely BASIC. GW BASIC that came on every Epson computer at the time. Yeah, they don't exist anymore. So what I did is I was working with ecology, and in the 70s there was a big revolution in ecology that brought numbers into the appreciation of natural sciences. So using numbers became something very commonplace in biology. So I started to use numbers, statistics, distributions, statistical methods, multivariate methods, and then I got into morphometrics, which is the study of the shape of organisms and trying to associate it with their evolution. And I also did that, and blah, blah, blah. And so I got involved in that. Then I went to I went to Chicago, and in Chicago I learned that everything you do in biology can be put in a framework that can be tested with mathematics or applied mathematics, or can be approached using that. Even your genetics, I studied in Chicago when bioinformatics was growing as a science. And that was amazing to see how people were trying to put all these sequences that originally they were getting it with big X-ray plates down into computers and making numbers and lines and trying to just interpret those. That nowadays is so commonplace, right? And that's most of the medicines where why they were able to solve all this issue with the coronavirus was because of all these technologies that were developed at the time.
Quick question.
Yes.
When you are in this evolution, when you're changing careers and moving around, at this point in time, would you see the data as, would you see data in the way that you analyze things as a reward to see things coming to fruition? Or would you also use that as an opportunity to simply mine information that you didn't have?
To be honest, for me, it's fun. Pure fun.
Then forget everything I said. Perfect. I love
Honestly,
it.
I never thought, well, of course, I was clear that I wanted to contribute to knowledge. I wanted to contribute to help people.
Yes.
I wanted to do many good things. So I always look at myself as a good guy, right? So just I want to do things for people. I want to do things, help others. I want to, that's why I taught for almost 20 years as well. So I like to do that. But when I was doing research, because it was exciting. It was just, wow, nobody knew this before. Nobody has talked about this earlier before. This is kind of cool. I never knew that this was a possibility. And that's what I was saying about data. Then I became working also with fisheries, and then that required mathematics. So for me, when I came here and I left academics, was this logical step for me was to get into data science. Was the same thing in the sense that I could just have problems. There are problems that are related with people and how they use our products and how we can do those products better. And that's definitely, it's a problem that is very similar to biological problems. We have these organisms here, they're living here, how we can help them, how we can exploit these organisms without eliminating them, without driving them to extinction, and how can we understand what they need to survive and what we're doing to damage them and what we can avoid that. And those kind of questions. Is very similar to me in my mind.
We've got a question here from Sylvester. Did you start in actuarial sciences?
No, I did not, but I have lots of friends who have, and have gone into data science as well. I do have.
For me and everyone else besides you two, explain what is actuarial sciences.
It's like accountants, for example, people that work on accounting and keeping track of numbers in a company. And they have several advantages compared to a biologist because they understand a lot about businesses and how to keep track of in a business. And that's very, very important advantage. I had to learn a little bit of that with my own sweat. So I had to suffer to it and learn it.
Sure.
I'm not suffer. It was always fun too because I was learning.
Fantastic. I'm just checking to see if we have any more questions today for Data Bob. Like I can't wait to see the table. I will buy a direct flight to Los Angeles, wherever you are. I don't know. And Ernie and I will come out there to spend time with you.
Roberto. Awesome. I make a good cioppino too. Cioppino. Cioppino?
It is like the seafood stew, yes?
Yes.
Oh, yes, and we love paella. Do you make the paella?
Oh, I make paella.
Oh, then it's done. Like, what are you doing for Labor Day? What are you doing for Labor Day? September, we are on a plane to you. I'll even bring tools or something. I attempt to make these things. I attempt to make them in my kitchen, and they are consumed, and no one dies, so I say they're good, right? No, I enjoy cooking, but I love the experience that you bring to the table from all the regions that you have. It's fantastic, and I love the experience. Sign us up for the paella. Oh my god! We went. There's a place in Madison called Estrella, and we went there with a friend named Catherine, and we had the paella. And this is from this is Spain. This is like the real deal. Yeah. And I never had it before, and he was just absolutely blown away.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. If it's I perfectly understand. Yeah.
If it's
it's blown away. Yeah. You just taste it and say, oh, this is it.
Yes, for sure.
Have, like minutes while you're eating this kind of food, you are just in heaven.
It is
so tasty, so unique.
Yes. Yeah. An hour and a half to make it, and 15 minutes to consume it.
Right.
The conversation goes on forever, like we are doing today. Goodness, I want to just take advantage of this because I know as soon as we part ways from here and go to your day and my day, it's just going to be, a crazy Friday, wrapping up the loose ends and having more meetings to make the change.
Right.
I encourage you guys that are going to watch this afterwards. Feel free to make comments in the bottom. There's no question that we don't want to see. There's no idea that we don't want to see. And we feel the same way with the people here at HONK that work for us and the people come from the outside. We see the posts. We see the posts on Toe Talk. We see the posts everywhere out there on Facebook. We are looking at them and we hear you. And, we can't simply show everything that we're doing in our company, but just know that we understand that every single market can't be treated all the way. So we're always running experiments and doing different things to make the life of the tow person better. And that is absolutely with the help of Roberto Cipriani.
Thank you.
Roberto, thank you so much. So much.
It's a full team effort. I mean, and we're constantly releasing tests and seeing what's the best way to do things and
yes.
to communicate with our people and just trying to get things better. Yeah, every day. It's nonstop.
We have this amazing technology platform that we call HONK, and we are excited to expand it. We are excited to add product to it. And when you give us the feedback, that gives us more ideas. So we challenge you guys to please let us know, message us on our Instagram, on our Facebook. We have amazing people that are monitoring those right now. My friend Yvonne, who is also the producer of all of our live podcasts that we do on Wednesday, here the Employee Spotlight, and also the Get Hooked podcast. And you guys can listen to that on a number of different Spotify, Apple, all those things. Right. But Roberto, thank you so much. It's going to be a fantastic Friday and a great weekend.
The same to you. I wish you the same. I wish you the same to everybody who's listening. And thank you very much for having me here. This has been really fun.
For us.
We can do it again soon.
Yes.
I have more stories to tell.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a great weekend and we'll talk soon. Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you.